Hey, welcome back, everybody. Of course, my name is Dr. Keith McNeil, and I'm here with Mitch Gray. And if you've watched my series, The Question Guy, you know Mitch Gray very, very well. And also, we actually have a series based on his book, How to Hire and Keep Great People. Now, my book, and of course, I'm doing some plugs here, Walking the Path, is actually came from this because this was the motivation for writing my own book. But we're not here to talk about my stuff, although I would love to do that. Mitch, we're here to talk about you. You are a coach. Talk to me about that. How did you become a coach? And what are you a coach of?
First of all, the people need to know that we are eventually going to co-write a book as well. That may come out next year or in 10 years. We don't know, but it will happen. That is my promise to the people. You could say I started coaching when I was 15, 16 years old. And here's what I mean by that. For those that may not have heard my story before, I always wanted to be a pastor since I was 10, 11 years old. And really at 15, 16 is when our youth group at church at the time didn't really have a youth minister. And it was a decently large youth group, 30 kids, 25, 30 kids, which is a
Mm,
pretty good sized youth group.
yeah.
So in a way, a lot of my peers would actually come to me and ask for advice. They would ask for inspiration. I actually started speaking at 13 years old, and at 15, 16, I spoke in front of some of the largest audiences I'd ever spoken in front of, even to this day. So really early on in my teenage years, I started being able to mentor, coach, advise, give inspiration to. And I've done it ever since in different forms and fashions, whether I was managing, a multi-million dollar store, or whether I was running my own business, or whether I was actually working in churches. I've done, in 2004, I started doing mental health counseling in public schools through a grant at the time that George W. Bush had signed into play. So I got a part-time job working in public schools doing mental health stuff, and I did that up until just a few years ago. Actually, the pandemic stopped that piece of my work. So for about 15 years, I did mental health counseling in schools part-time. And then, business coaching, it's just kind of all to me. I don't view any of it differently. And just even to now, I'm doing an in-person local leadership course, and we had our third week last night. So more coaching again. To me, that's kind of what it's all about. And I've done it for literally 30 years now and
Well,
in different forms and fashions.
let me ask you this question. Do you think of yourself as a coach? Or I don't want to even use the word brand. Do you identify yourself as something different or something unique? How does
Yeah,
that
I,
look
I
for
think
you?
I think the mistake I've made, and I think if a professional marketing agency looked at my marketing, it would not be good. And the reason I say that is I have a really hard time using a specific word or language to identify what I do. And probably the reason I have a hard time doing that is I think I do things very differently to most people that call themselves a coach or a consultant or whatever. In fact, I told someone just this morning, I don't even view myself as a speaker. I view myself as a facilitator of thought. And those are two very different things. But a facilitator of thought doesn't market very well, right? I'm not a licensed counselor. I am a certified licensed mental health facilitator. So legality jumps into play there. It's basically the same thing, but you can't call yourself a counselor because of legalities and certifications. And so, for me, I've always kind of viewed it with a little bit of kid gloves, kind of walking on eggshells. I have to be real careful what I call myself. I probably lean in practice more into counseling, spiritual guidance, spiritual coaching than I do what you would normally think of as a coach. Because again, to me, it's all about personal development, even if I'm doing business coaching. So that's probably a mistake on my part. I don't really view myself as a coach.
Well,
Maybe I should just at some point.
I
Yeah, I
never
should just hire
considered
a
it.
marketing
Well,
agency to paraphrase for me. Yeah, yeah,
no, well, I never considered it, a mistake in marketing because, for the past 2 years, this has been your bread and butter. How to hire and keep great people. You've
yes,
been talking
yeah.
to business owners about this very thing, about creating teams, about creating culture in a very strategic manner. And matter of fact, when we first started talking like 2 years ago, You introduced me to the idea of, and now what am I looking for? The way you approach any hiring situation is basically a conversation, but you didn't call it that.
Mhm.
You call it something unique. Now I even forget about it. I forget what that word is. What makes you so unique in your approach, but it's so powerful and impactful that you know that if your clients do what you simply show them to do, you're not even telling them, you actually show them,
Mhm.
they're going to make changes in their business.
To me, the singular difference in what I do, how I teach, is human behavior.
Okay.
I rarely, if ever, prioritize something else over human behavior. What does that look like? You mentioned hiring and interviewing and recruiting. I have to be so clear on my culture and my expectation of who I want on my team that I actually allow the people I'm recruiting or interviewing to tell me how they relate to that. So in other words, I'm not worried about, the skill set. That I mean, I am to an extent, but I can teach all of that. I don't interview based on the stuff I can teach. And for me, that's where the sustainability of most hiring processes falls short. Is they're hiring based on skill set, based on an empty seat, based on qualifications. And most organizations are not hiring based on the human behavior element. How do you connect with our culture? How do you fit? What seat on the bus are you going to sit in? What role are you going to play on the team, personality wise? And when you begin interviewing from that aspect, everything else kind of falls into place. But it really takes an intentionality to that, and it takes an awareness. And quite frankly, I think the reason most people miss it is because they just simply aren't aware, haven't been taught to really pay attention to the story that others are bringing to the table. You're a really craftsman of storytelling, of story listening, and there's power in the story. There's truth in the story. But if we never allow people the space to tell their story, then we never allow ourselves the space to listen to the story. And we're so focused on the operations side of it. We're so focused on the job description, on the qualifications, on the skill set, that we're blinded to the human story that's taking place. Many people you interview are telling you don't hire, but we're so blinded by the operations, the qualifications, the skill set that we don't listen to what they're actually telling us.
So I know that you use this phrase a lot, secret sauce. What
Mm.
is there a secret sauce to finding the right person for a position in a company?
Yep. The secret sauce is simple. Have clarity on your culture, have clarity on the type of people you want on your team when it comes to energy, presence, uh, aptitude, attitude. And then simply what I call go fishing. Find where those fish swim, find where they hang out, find where they live, find where they eat, and just simply go have a conversation. Hey, you're looking for an opportunity. That is the secret sauce. If every hiring manager would participate in that process on an everyday basis, they would never have a problem finding great people ever. I would be out of a job. And that's what I want. I want to be out of a job because I have so many other things that I had excited to bring about in life and to manifest. And so, yes, that's the secret sauce. The problem is most people aren't aware of that secret sauce. Most people haven't been taught that secret sauce. And most people haven't been expected to go out and find great people. They expect the great people to come to them. And that's just not the case. It just rarely happens.
So can you give us an example, maybe something recently or maybe not so recently, of how that actually works? Because you just said you literally just said, "Are you looking for an opportunity?" Yeah, that's basically the words that you
Yes.
said, if you not directly.
Yep.
Is that really as
That's the
simple
phrase
as
I
it
teach.
gets?
Yep. I'll give you a perfect example.
Please.
You're in line at the coffee shop and the barista is treating you really well. And you take a minute and you notice how they engage with their teammates, how they engage with other customers. They're telling you a story. And the story is they're knowledgeable, they care, they're happy, they're positive, their energy's good. So you simply ask them, hey, do you know anyone looking for an opportunity? That takes the pressure off of them and removes the idea that you might feel guilty trying to pull them away from that job. But that's the question, because birds of a feather flock together. If that's how and who they are, they're going to hang out with other people that are how and who of the same ilk, same pattern, same behaviors. And so you simply ask the question, hey, do you know anyone looking for an opportunity? And by the way, that should be your question to everyone you meet who brings that same energy, whether you're at the golf course, whether you're in church, whether you're at a social event, whether you're at the movie theater. You're asking that question. I would give anyone watching this the challenge, if you're in a hiring position, to ask 10 people a week that very question. Do you know
Well,
anyone looking for an opportunity?
really?
Yeah.
And what do you
10
think the
people a week. That's
numbers?
it.
What should be the return on investment there?
At 10 people a week,
Yeah.
depending on what size of a team they're running, but I wouldn't be far fetched in a month to get, 5 to 10 people coming and being interested in an opportunity. I mean,
Okay.
my personal goal, if I was still running a team that I was constantly hiring people, I'd be asking 40 people a week. But people, you got to start somewhere, right? So
Right.
10's an easy number. That's 2 a day, 5 days a week. I'll let you take 2 days off. Fine. But once you get into it, you should be 40, 50 people a week. Like, this should be a constant everywhere you go. Hey, anybody looking for an opportunity? Because the other thing people forget is, if you're running a revenue driven business, you also need to be asking for business. But it's amazing how many business owners aren't asking for business. They're just expecting people to come buy their product or services. And so really what you're doing is twofold. Is when you say, hey, Keith, are you looking for an opportunity? I run a team. I run the car dealership down the street. We're always looking for great people. If you, oh, by the way, might be looking for a car too. Go ahead and come on in and give us a listen. And so you're also driving and recruiting business. So if you did both of those 40 to 50 times a week, you're going to increase your business easily. Doesn't take much time at all. And you're going to find really, really amazing people.
I like that answer. Mitch, we don't have too much time left, but I want to go back to this book, How to Hire and Keep Great People.
Yep.
This has been your bread and butter book for at least almost 2 years now.
Yes. Yes.
Is
It
there
came
any
out 2 years ago, 2 years ago last month. Yep.
yeah, 2 years ago. And this has been gold. This has been really gold. Very well laid out. I've read it 3 or 4 times myself. Is there anything new coming down? Because this is 2 years old. Anything
Yeah.
new?
It's crazy, isn't it? The great thing is we're still selling books. And that's what's crazy in the book world. They tell you your first 60 days in the book world is it. That's all you get. And 2 years later, I just got a report last week or last month that we still sold books. And that's amazing. And I still think we have a chance. I still think we could become a number one Amazon bestseller at some point. So that's cool. Yeah, working on the new book. I won't divulge too much information, but it's going to be directly focused on leadership development and how you're developing the people around you. But it's going to be a very integrated book. In other words, we're going to have some real life experiences from real life employees who either had good experiences with leadership or negative experiences. And what we hope is we can create some real pillars of leadership so that someone who is in those positions can go, oh my gosh, I can learn from that, or I can build on that. So excited about it. Yeah. The podcast, The Mitch Gray Show, go listen to it and subscribe. We refreshed it. We have a new co-host now, Miguel Antonio. It's going to be kind of like a Drive at 5 show now. It's going to be really fun. And yeah, man, all kinds of good stuff.
Well, Mitch, I appreciate all of that. I'll have all those, contacts in the description.
Yep.
Thank you for this conversation. This has been another
Thanks,
edition of,
Keith.
yeah, absolutely. This has been another edition of Coach's Corner. We'll see you next time. Take care.